Have you ever replayed a mistake in your head over and over, long after everyone else has moved on? Maybe you said something awkward in a meeting, forgot an important detail at work, or made a small error in a project. Other people barely noticed, but you couldn't stop thinking about it. You dissected every word, every facial expression, every possible reaction from others, until you convinced yourself it was far worse than it really was. And here's the strange thing. If a friend had done the exact same thing, you would have told them, "It's nothing, don't worry about it." Yet when it's you, that kindness seems out of reach. This is the puzzle we're going to unpack. Why you often act as your own harshest judge, holding yourself to impossible standards that you would never demand from anyone else. This inner critic is more than just a voice in your head. It shapes how you see yourself, how you act in the world, and even what you believe you deserve. Today we'll explore where this inner judge comes from, why it's so much harsher on you than on others, and most importantly, how you can start shifting it from a punisher into an ally that helps you grow instead of tearing you down. To understand why your inner judge is so much harsher on you than on others, we need to look at how self-perception works. Imagine your mind is having two different courtrooms. One is where you judge others. Here, you're the calm, reasonable juror. You look at context, you give the benefit of the doubt, you consider intentions as well as outcomes. The other courtroom is where you judge yourself. And in this one, you're not just the juror, you're also the prosecutor, the witness, and the accused. The rules are different here. Evidence against you is amplified, and anything in your favor is often dismissed as not good enough. Psychologists call part of this tendency the self-serving bias in reverse. While most people bend facts to protect their self-esteem, those with a strong inner critic do the opposite. They magnify their flaws and minimize their strengths. This often comes from early life experiences. If you grew up in an environment where praise was rare but mistakes were highlighted, your brain learned to focus on faults as a survival mechanism. Or maybe you internalized high expectations from parents, teachers, or cultural norms, carrying them into adulthood without realizing it. Over time, these standards become so ingrained that you judge yourself not by the flexible standards you apply to others, but by an almost mythical ideal of who you think you should be. The result is a distorted form of fairness where you believe being harder on yourself will make you better, when in reality, it often erodes your confidence and keeps you stuck in cycles of self-doubt. One of the main reasons this harsh self-judgment persists is because your brain mistakes it for a form of discipline. It's as if a coach is yelling at you from the sidelines, convinced that constant criticism will push you to perform better. But here's the catch. Research in cognitive psychology and neuroscience shows that excessive self-criticism actually triggers the brain's threat response. Instead of motivating you, it floods your system with stress hormones like cortisol, narrowing your focus to immediate danger and reducing your ability to think creatively or solve problems effectively. Imagine trying to repair a car engine while an alarm is blaring in your ear. That's what your mind experiences when your inner critic takes over. This state might push you into frantic bursts of action, but it's not sustainable and often leads to burnout or avoidance. On the other hand, when you judge others, you're not inside their emotional system, so your evaluation is calmer and more objective. You're able to see the bigger picture and notice strengths alongside weaknesses. In a way, you become their defense lawyer, not just their prosecutor. The goal then isn't to silence your inner judge completely, because some level of self-assessment is healthy and necessary, but to train it to operate under the same fair and balanced standards you use for others. This means shifting from a hostile interrogator to a constructive mentor, one who challenges you but also supports you in finding solutions instead of just pointing out failures. So how do you actually start retraining this inner judge? The first step is awareness. Most of the time, your self-criticism operates on autopilot, disguised as just being honest with myself. The trick is to catch it in the act. One useful technique is called externalizing the voice. The next time you catch yourself thinking, "I'm so stupid for messing that up," pause and imagine that exact sentence being said aloud to a friend who made the same mistake. Would you say it the same way? Probably not. This creates a mental gap between the emotion and the judgment, giving you space to respond differently. The second step is to replace the hostile cross-examination with curious questioning. Instead of, "Why am I such a failure?" try, "What exactly happened here and what can I learn from it?" This subtle shift from judgment to curiosity keeps you in problem-solving mode rather than self-punishment mode. The third step is to actively balance your mental courtroom with evidence for the defense. When your brain presents a list of everything you did wrong, counter it with a list of what you handled well, even if it's small. This isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about restoring a fair trial in your own mind. Over time, these habits rewire the way your inner judge speaks to you, making it more like a coach who points out your weaknesses because they believe you can improve, not because they want to keep you down. The shift is subtle but powerful, and it turns self-awareness into fuel for growth instead of ammunition for self-doubt. The final step is to make this new approach part of your daily mental hygiene. Just like you brush your teeth not because they're falling out today, but to prevent problems tomorrow, you can maintain a fairer inner courtroom through small, consistent habits. Start by building in moments of self-check-in. Maybe at the end of the day, ask yourself, if I were reviewing someone else's actions today, how would I frame it? This question alone can reframe a harsh narrative into a more balanced one. Pair this with self-compassion exercises, like writing yourself a short note of encouragement after a setback, or even speaking it aloud so your brain begins to normalize supportive self-talk. You might feel silly at first, but remember, the brain learns through repetition, and you're teaching it a new language. Over time, you'll notice that the inner judge's tone changes, less like a prison guard, more like a trusted mentor. This doesn't mean you'll never feel self-critical again. It means you'll be equipped to navigate it without letting it define your worth. And here's the deeper reward. When you learn to judge yourself fairly, you not only improve your relationship with yourself, you also become more patient, understanding, and supportive with others. It's a shift that ripples outward into every interaction you have. If you found this perspective valuable and want to keep building your personal toolkit for better thinking, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who could use a kinder voice in their own mind, and subscribe to Mind Unlocked, where every idea is another tool to help you think clearly, live fully, and understand yourself better.